Welcome in to the E-Chapel for a very special Saint Flup's Day service, my brethren, sistren, and those who do not like to be pigeonholed. Each of you, geeks, freaks, oh gosh, no, yeah, that was entirely wrong. You'll have to let me go with that for a second. I've just realised that I need to put the actual service thing on. There you go, right, okay. Indistinguishable. There we are. Yes. Sorry, I was in the middle of my intro there. Brethren and sistren, those that do not like to be pigeonholed, welcome in. Each of you a freak, a geek, or indeed in some other way totally unique. It is Saint Flup's Day. All hail Eris, and all glory to Saint Flup the meme lord. If you're very confused by this notion, and indeed maybe hastily scrambling through a copy of Principia Discordia looking for reference to Saint Flup, don't bother, you won't find it. This is purely a church-based, it's like house rules, you know? I'm just going to turn the stuff around so it's the right way. Yes, you see, I'll explain it in a minute. Well, let's do first of all, as is our duty here, the disclaimer. So yes, just the cradle of familiarity, because Wednesday night, it's not a familiar time here in the chapel. But of course, we've planned this. This is the ordained by random Saints' Day for this season, Aftermath 2024, and so here we are, but we still need to apply the disclaimer, which reads as such: all acts of Discordianism portrayed herein are for spiritual entertainment purposes only. No spiritual enlightenment or transcendent experience is offered or implied. Leaps of faith and logical backflips are performed by trained sophists. Do not attempt to recreate at home. Any resemblance to other religions, alive, dead, or merely untenable, is entirely coincidental. Hail Eris and Immanentize the eschaton are brands of the Discordian society. All associated intellectual property rights are probably also wrongs, just the way they are these days. And here's the truncated order of service. I'm not expecting to be here super long, but we must mark the day. I've noticed I've done some inconsistency in that list. I've used the full word saints at the top and then the contraction right below. Forgive me, although to be fair, that's very Arisian, so don't forgive me. In fact, praise me. We will have a calendar section. I'm not expecting really for that to go on very long because I don't think anyone's going to turn up. But we must do this, and in fact, we're really doing it. We're doing it for the asynchronous brethren, sistren, and those who don't like to be pigeonholed, so that you know that the day was marked, as I may believe I have remarked in a previous antecedent service to this Grand Saints' Day, the most important day in the season of Aftermath 2024. We are swimming against the tide here. The shops are not full of Saint Flup's Day chocolate figures. We're not encouraged to give Saint Flup's Day gifts, which we aren't anyway because Saint Flup's Day gifts are out. But the supermarkets are not putting special displays on for Saint Flup's Day. The world at large doesn't care about Saint Flup, but we do. And that is why we have some Saints' Day thoughts incoming. We are, of course, celebrating the time of Saint Flup, the meme lord, and you can see the meme lord there contemplating what it means to be a saint. Right there, he's contemplating, deeply considering the notions of being a saint. And this is, in fact, we'll switch here to the full screen. This is about the only slide we're going to get. There is one other slide, but I'm going to work my way up to that because right now I'm supposed to lay down the law. Not the law, L-A-W, the law. Such law, L-O-R-E, law. Laying down the law. And the law, generally speaking, it should relate to Saint Flup. But Saint Flup has a unique distinction. He is the first tissue out of the box, the first biscuit off the top of the packet, the first SWDP official single-use saint. Yes, that is right. So let us begin. Let us go through this. So As you may or may not be aware, I run a service for Discordians every Friday here in the E-Chapel, and we consider our Discordian thoughts. We take our Discordian sacrament, which we do not take today because it's a Wednesday, not a Friday. Now, if a Saint's Day did occur on a Friday, then the evening we would have the usual Friday service, but it would be obviously tilted towards that single-use saint. But this is an out-of-step one, so we don't need a sacrament. I also haven't got a face, because the obvious face of Saint Flup's Day is the meme lord, Saint Flup face. Yes, there's not going to be, if we have another meme lord, it'd be the same picture of a sort of a genetically mutated cat, fluffy white cat. That would be the same image would be used, because of course, what says meme more than a fluffy cat? But I haven't got to that part yet. So I've been running these services on Friday, and while we were contemplating the Principia one week, we came across the Discordian calendar. I mean, many of you may have known that the Discordian calendar existed before. I must have taken it in, but I now got down a Discordian calendar. And I wondered if it was in fact possible to live your life according to the Discordian calendar. And the answer is no, because everybody else uses the Gregorian calendar. So it's a little bit like we live here in Britain, British people speaking British. The Queen's called Queen's English, where your perspective in time is. And there around us there are many wonderful countries, European countries that have their own languages, French, Spanish, Italian, German, to name but a handful, Danish, Swedish, yeah, all parts of Europe, all different languages. And yet everybody comes together to speak English because we were such massive crybaby bastards about the whole thing that everyone just gave up and started speaking English. English became a lingua franca, which is a phrase that is not English, in an irony there. But yes, so everybody starts speaking English in much the same way. We might have our own calendar here in the Discordian E-Chapel of the SWPE, South Wales Discordian Press, proudly not printing any Discordian works since around about 2020. We've nearly gone 5 years without a single word printed, and what an achievement that is, because nobody wants to read anything anymore. Good grief, the very thought is just absurd. So yes, we have been running these services, and then we came across the calendar. And although it's not possible to live your entire life by the Discordian calendar, it is handily split into 5 seasons of 73 exact days each. Perfect. There's a service way back where I break that down in more detail. That's what it is. We happen right now at the end of the year to be in the final season of 2024, which in the Discordian calendar is the season of Aftermath. Now, the Discordian calendar does give some indications of Saints' Days, but they're very poorly distributed. And the thing about Saints' Days and Holy Days and goodness knows what else is that historically they've been movable depending on which religion you wanted to block out. Yeah, they have Samhain, so you have Christmas. Yeah, it's all a bit of a petty, brinksmanship affair between other religions. Whereas the Discordian one was just like, well, everything's 5, so there's 5 seasons, and the Saints' Day are the 5th day and the 50th day. Without really thinking, like if you want to celebrate the turning of the season, you don't then, I suppose you could have an equivalent of like a Christmas week 5 times a year, where you just have some kind of 5-day bender every season. But everybody's life doesn't quite work like that. So, that's a iffy proposition. So having the Saints' Day on the 5th, too soon. And the 50th, right near the end. You're about 3 weeks off the end of the season, which isn't too bad. Yeah, you'll do the celebration, then the end of the season. Problem is, none of these Saints' Days really have any detail about how or why they should be celebrated. So it feels a lot like an uphill struggle to get enthusiasm up, and 2 per season as well. I mean, 10 celebrations a year, which you have to overlay with the quote-unquote real celebrations, the way the rest of the world is celebrating things in the Gregorian fashion. And so I concluded that this was good. But the church should mark days. That is one of the things that I have come to understand, weirdly, intuit, that in order to involve yourself in a spiritual path, you must in some way mark the time with Saints' Days, season changes. So 5 of those is pretty good, and then 5 Saints' Days, we're all done. So that's good news. But how to apportion them, and who are the saints? Well, the first thing is, the how is quite easy. I roll a bunch of 6-sided dice, or indeed spin a spinner, which I've got online, at the beginning of the season. In fact, this is one of the seasonal celebrations, discovering when and who the saint of this season will be. It's a mystery until then. Who's the Saints' Day in Chaos beginning January 1st, 2025? I don't know. I can't know. Nobody can know until the 1st of January, when we have our Chaos commencing service, and there we find the saint and where their day is celebrated, and we have a series of tables in which to determine that. It's all very, very organised, which is weird because we're a church that worships the God of Chaos. But as you shall learn if you stick around, if you try to make something ordered, you will produce chaos, and if you try to make something chaotic, you will proceed to make order, and that's the way it is. So here is a church celebrating the worship of the goddess, who tells us about the unending cosmic chaos that lies below the illusion of apparent human perceptible chaos. And as you try and increase, therefore, the chaos spirituality in the world, you create some kind of an order. It's inevitable, so let's not fight it. And indeed, I have found that as we have ordered this, that November the 20th is Saint Flup's day, I've found recently there's been a lot of chaos about that has sort of stood in the way of effectively preparing for a Saint's Day, but that's just the way life is, particularly when you are swimming against the tide. It reminds us that other things like Christmas, Easter, things like that, they happen by convention, and with the entirety of Western civilization pushing people in that direction to do such a thing. Governments declare holidays, and shops fill with produce, and everyone is encouraged to partake in these festivals, even if they're very confused about what the festivals even mean. So there we go. So we declared a Saints' Day, 20th, which we determined with a dice and a spinner and Donald as well. We also determined what one should do on the Saints' Day, to mark it. And the only randomised action that came up was that we had to eat some kind of special food. So I communed with the goddess and with the saint himself, and it was determined that what we should eat on November the 20th, Saint Flup's Day, is macaroni cheese and meatballs, which indeed I did eat. And the saint was not pointing us in the wrong direction, so ADO. It was delicious, very nice, and in fact that is what the other picture is for. So let us not have any preamble. We're getting to here. Here is my Saint Flup's Day dinner. Hey, meatballs and macaroni and cheese. Now there is vegetables as well, because I have a child, and it is mandated when you have a child that you sneak vegetables into anything. Adding vegetables is not a problem, and that is penne, not macaroni, for the sharp-eyed pasta enthusiasts among us. But they perform similar functions. Like macaroni, penne is a tube, although it's not a curly tube, it's a straight tube. They're also known as pasta quills. But they take the cheesiness on just as well, and the meatballs were absolutely delicious. And actually the taste of the thing was pretty robust, pretty much what I expected. The added vegetables, in fact, added a tang of sweetness into the overall, and then, of course there was a lot of meaty, cheesy, salty, umami flavours going on. So it was actually a pretty good meal. Yes, I enjoyed my Saint Flup's Day past. It was a good one. The other reason why the goddess and Saint Flup felt that this was what we should be eating at this time is because surrounding Saint Flup's Day are a lot of other, like Halloween is a lot of candy, Christmas or Thanksgiving is a lot of roast meat. So this was a chance to just eat something a bit, stodgy and simple and not, it was. And we marked the occasion, I would say in style. So there we go. That is our Saint Flup's Day meal. But what is all this nonsense? And then Saint Flup. Here's a question that I can see is probably burgeoning in people's minds as you take in this outline of how the Saints' Day came to be. Come November 20th next year, will we be celebrating Saint Flup with our macaroni, cheese and meatballs again? And the answer is most certainly not, because every saint at the E-Chapel is a single-use saint, which is why I referred to Saint Flup earlier as the first tissue out of the box, the first biscuit off the top of the packet. Although today Saint Flup is revered for all things memeish and for all things, cheese, macaroni, cheese and meatball related, and for being a cat, and all of these things. Although Saint Flup is revered in this fashion, right now, here today in Aftermath 2024, tomorrow we will forget Saint Flup ever existed, ever, and we will go about our lives. And then the next season we'll roll up another one. So each saint is only a saint, one, in our minds. They don't really exist. And is Saint Flup a man or a woman? They are gender fluid by design. That is why the name and things like Flup. You will never have a Saint Peter or Saint Bridget or any of that. There will always be some nonsense sequence of characters that allow you to make your own single-use saint within the parameters of what the goddess of chaos has determined should be the way to mark the Saints' Day. And the Saints' Day, when we come round to Aftermath next year on October 20th, we may roll the dice and the dice may tell us that the Saints' Day is at some other location during the season. So no, these are not consistent. We will not print calendars that every year give the same Saints' Days. We just do our Saints' Day, indulge in our spiritual connection via that Saints' Day, and then we move on. And those saints have served their purpose and are canonized in some great hall somewhere, but I'm not in charge of that, so I don't care. Somewhere in the universe, a sculptor sculpts a divine sculpture of Saint Flup in order to join the hall of single-use saints, because reality is infinite, and that must be happening in an infinite universe, because all things happen in an infinite universe. But it's not within 50 square kilometres of me, so I don't care. But and neither should anyone. Yeah, unless you happen to be in that place where a sculptor is sculpting a sculpture of Saint Flup in order to enter into the hall or gallery of saints. In which case, can you take a photo and send it to me? Because I'm interested in that degree, if you're actually near the actual thing. But I think that would involve some kind of trans-dimensional jiggery-pokery, because I'm pretty sure it's not happening on my Earth anywhere at this time. I'm pretty sure of that. Almost 100% confident. But there we go. It's enough for me that it's happening somewhere in reality. So that is the thought. The thought of the day is just to marvel at this invention, the creation from ourselves of the Saint Flup, and this creation, this imaginary creation manifested in reality. My dinner this evening on November 20th, I ate macaroni, cheese and meatballs. Entirely because of that. Just the same way that, on Easter we eat chocolate eggs, and on Halloween we eat Halloween candy. Yeah? We do these things from out of our minds. We manifest a reality. So I manifested a small reality in the Saints' Day, and that is the true glory of Discordianism. I pictured it and it happened. So there we go. And if you join me, that's great too. Of course, I am chiefly talking to our asynchronous brethren, sistren, and those who don't like to be pigeonholed, because there's nobody in the chat right now. Oh my God, there was a thing. I'll have to watch my service back about chat. Okay, there was a thing. I'll maybe remember it. I probably won't. So I'll have to watch the service back. But anyway, yeah, asynchronous brethren, sister, and you can consider your own approach to Saint Flup. Maybe you're watching this and you didn't even know Saint Flup was a thing, in which case do not be downhearted. Because if you're like, hey, this South Wales Discordian Press e-chapel, this sounds like the place to be. I can get nonsense, I can get a man in a beard chuntering, I can get a reality manifestation, we dial a saint every season. Sounds like a good time, but I missed it. You didn't miss it. It's going to happen again. New Year's Day, 2025, the advent of chaos, season of chaos. Yeah, although, to be fair, in the world that there is at the moment, may actually be the actual advent of chaos as well. There we are. What can we do? We can say Hail Eris and understand that chaos provides these things for us. Who knows? It's going to be an interesting time. And that is the worst thing of all. As we all know, there is a curse. Some believe to be Chinese, although it may not be. That goes, may you live in interesting times. Well, we have been living in interesting times for nearly 10 years now. And I, for one, am sick of it. I want boring times, not interesting times. And this little oasis of spiritual content is how I express that desire that the most exciting things that happen are we roll some dice and decide to eat some pasta. Because I really don't want it to be any more exciting than that. It is time for the Saint Flup's Day, or Saint's Day. It doesn't have to be Saint Flup. Any Discordian saint, we're going to treat it the same way. And we're going to take a tarot card that you will be expecting now if you've watched previous services. We did something different in the seasonal one, which I'm going to take forward. So there's a seasonal tarot deck, or in fact decks, that we use to talk about the transformation of energy from one season to the next. And now we do our usual Friday one, which is of course my excellent Nemon's Mystical Melodies tarot. That gives a lovely 1920s cartoon vibe to the tarot readings there, or tarot cards we call. And now on Saint's Day, I have shuffled the deck and cut it several times. And rather than counting in, I am just going to take the top card, because the top card is the card that the saint wants us to have on the Saint's Day. I have arbitrarily decided. It's different to the way we usually do it, but usually a saint isn't in control, and this time the saint is. So Saint Flup has told us that the Saint's Deck tarot card for their day, for they are not man or woman, but merely Saint Flup, is the Page of Coins. Well, that's really weird. Page of Coins. Oh, is that? Let me check the next card. Okay, so this is from the excellent Garbage Pail Kids tarot, these cards. And I figured, because Garbage Pail Kids are themselves like an iconography of collectible icons, that would be entirely appropriate for a Saint's Day draw, yeah, because the individual, the saint, the Garbage Pail Kid, is the central part of the message. So we have here the Page of Coins, which I shall relate unto you. The Page of Coins. They've got great back as well. Fantastic. The Page of Coins. Now, what's really weird is that last week's weekly draw was the Knight of Coins, and we explained how the Knight was all about acting out, doing things. Going to play football, going out for a meal, or buying a thing, going to a shop and buying a thing, or donating a thing to a library. Any kind of action that you can take. And in the area of the coinage, which is sort of about your personal emotional security, and trying to make a difference to the vibe of emotional security by acting out, but with the serious caveat in the case of the Knight that it has no consequence. So you're taking actions in that vibe of personal security and you don't expect them to have any consequence, which, you know, could be a bit dangerous. That's just saying. And here we have the Page, which is the same, almost the same thing, except instead of acting outward, doing something out in the world and expecting no consequence, you change your own attitude towards that personal security vibe, and you expect no consequence to come from that change. Excuse me, I need to drink a bit of water. It is water. Somebody asked me, I almost felt guilty I didn't have something more exciting to tell him, like it was some kind of carbonated fruit flavoured ayahuasca or something. It is just plain and ordinary chilled tap water, because I'm talking on my phone. But yes, indeed, the Page, so personal security in the area, it's really hard not to say, you know, saving up money or changing a job or something to do with your work, because all of these areas are very broadly and in your face areas of personal security, emotional security, your emotional. It's like that lower part of that triangle pyramid of needs. Yeah. So anything that does that. So, you know, moving house, that's or living in a house, or doing something in a house, doing some DIY. All of these things are acting upon or acting within the sphere of your own personal security. Yeah? If you decorate your living room, then you have made the living room more habitable to you, and you feel more secure. But this is not what the Page does. The Page doesn't do DIY. The Knight does DIY. And in fact, that would be very strange if the Knight was like, oh, I'm going to completely overhaul the interior design of my living room, but I don't expect it to change the way I feel about my living room. But yeah, so you would take an action, but you would take an action as the Knight of Coins or Pentacles in a way where you would expect it doesn't really have any effect on you. So you might decorate your brother or sister or mother or father or daughter or son's living room as a nice thing to do for them, but you wouldn't expect really anything to come of that consequently for your own emotional security. So the giddy becomes a surprise. And the Page similarly is like, so what do? Decide to make a to-do list, to do some chores, that kind of thing. You know, anything that relates to that kind of area where you change something about your habits in the area of personal security. But again, you don't expect anything to come of it. So I think one of the ideal scenarios here would be when you switch on a feature in your internet banking app where it saves change of things like, so you buy something for 75 pence or cents, depending on where you are in the world, and then the 25 pence or cents left over before you get to a pound or a dollar goes into a savings account. You might do that and save. It's probably going to be inconsequential. You just see what happens. It's very much a see what happens kind of card. I have discussed before that the Page of Coins is possibly the least. I'm not sure we haven't had the Page of Coins before. The least impressive card in the entire tarot deck. Incredibly good. But there we go, that is the way Saint Flup rolls. Saint Flup says, hey, you know what? You can have a boring card. You're welcome. I mean, to be fair, Saint Flup's food of choice is macaroni, cheese and meatballs, which many people would state is kind of, what's the word? Oh yeah, basic. And it is, yeah. But this, I suppose that might be the message that Saint Flup is trying to tell us. To joy and celebrate within the basics, within the things that, you know, that are just there. So there we go. That was our reflective tarot. So we do have a calendar, which I don't think is going to go anywhere because I don't think anyone's there. And if you are there, if you're watching this thinking, what is this guy talking about? What is it all about? Who is Saint Flup? What's the Garbage Pail Tarot got to do with anything? Why is this happening on the 20th of November? Any of those questions that might run through your mind right now, speak up. This is where we are. I've had, in this very chat on the regular Friday service, much weirder questions. I mean, I suppose the question that you might like to consider is, why didn't I go out and bang the gong about Saint Flup's Day a bit more? And why didn't you even bother to say that this service was happening? If people turn up for the rego, why not remind them that there's an extra service? Well, honestly, I didn't know how it was going to go, but the time surrounding or leading up to Saint Flup's Day has been an advent of earthly chaos. Life has been an uphill struggle for quite a while now, and I am kind of hoping that when the Flup vibe collapses, as it will do in the next couple of days, things will calm down a bit. Although we have Christmas coming up, so we're over-optimistic in that regard. But as a result, we need to mark the occasion, and we need to move on. We've marked the occasion, very close to moving on. One thing I am noticing is I'm wearing this incredibly warm grey rip-off hoodie, which has been my constant companion for 3 years now whenever the weather gets cold. When I came up here I was absolutely freezing, and now I'm quite warm, and the grey hoodie is possibly a little too warm, so I may have to take it off after the service. So there we go. But anyway, the point is, I didn't really want to make a big fuss, or I was prevented from making an even bigger fuss than I did before by the fact that I just didn't have time. I just couldn't work in extra promotion for Saint Flup. I think, macaroni meatballs, Page of Pentacles. I'm getting the impression that as meme lords go, his meme approach is you need to be overexcited. Definitely you don't want to be extra. You just want to be yourself, even if that self is super good. And that's where we are. That's the message of this Saint Flup's Day. Sometimes just cool. To do what you've got to do. Eat something a bit crap, but maybe it has that hint of comfortableness. And just take care of yourself. Self-care. In a very indulgent sort of way. That is the meme energy that comes from Saint Flup. And so there we say we can acknowledge that, we can contemplate it, we can meditate it, and we can move on with our lives. And that was today's Discordian service. If you are watching this on an asynchronous service, e.g. YouTube, in fact, please feel free, and I would appreciate all the thumbs ups, the subscribing, all of that stuff. Leave me a comment. I don't get many comments, which is weird because people visiting the chat of this of the regular Friday service have worked out fairly quickly that you can just talk absolute nonsense to me and I will take it in. In fact, that's part of my role as Discordian Pope stroke pastor, is to receive your nonsense and to conjure with it, to spin your brain. You've spun it a little bit with the nonsense, I'm here to spin it even further. That is my path. That is my route. And the same should apply to YouTube commentary. Although, to be fair, much of the YouTube commentary I've had is like, yeah, man, it's Discordian service time. I'm loving it. I'm loving the Discordian vibes. And I've just gone, thank you very much. That's really nice of you. So, Discordian really is a slacker's spiritual path where whatever often fits as a response. Hey, no man, I didn't do it. That's also a good response. It's an ill wind that blows no minds. All of these things. Discordianism is the spiritual path that takes, all the peace and tranquility of other spiritual paths and says, and don't take it too seriously either. I mean, that's really weird. I'm pretty sure I've known people in the past who stressed out about how much they meditated. You've got to be making a mistake there, right? You come up with a program of meditation that stresses you out more. You've got to see the obvious irony of that. Yeah? So that's all that I wrote for Saint Flup's Day. I wish you, wherever you are in the world and wherever, usually I say if you're watching asynchronously, then it's Friday, the Friday service. It's Friday for the duration of the service. I would say the same thing about Saint Flup's Day, but if it is not 2024 anymore, then I will say this is an archive of Saint Flup's Day. You can look forward to a different Saint's Day in the aftermath of your current year, whenever it is. This is a forensic archival recording of what happened this aftermath. So, if you're still in 2024, you've taken a little slice of Flup with you, and isn't that a peaceful? Flup brings you peace. For us, Flup brings you non-judgmental contentment, and that really is a saintly party. So that is what we have learnt this Saint Flup's Day, and I shall say to thee therefore, farewell, good night, happy Saint Flup's Day, happy Aftermath 2024. See you on Fridays. I've just made the appalling realisation I never turned the desktop audio down for this. I hope you heard anything that I said. And if you didn't, I don't really mind. I think the music is gentle enough. It'll be an interesting experiment to see if I was competing with the music throughout the broadcast. Anyway, happy Saint Flups. Cheery bye.